Pressure mounts on Boris Johnson over partygate. What impact could this have in those crucial local elections in 2 weeks' time? More than 5,000 council seats are up for grabs on the 5th of May. So could we see a major Labour victory? Well, new research by Electoral Calculus suggests that the Tories may drop 810 seats in England and Wales. Who better to discuss this research now than Martin Baxter, CEO of Electoral Calculus? Welcome to the programme. 810 seats would be a monumental drubbing for the Conservative Party. How did you arrive at that number?
Isn't it amazing, Tom, that the local elections are so exciting this year in May? That yes, our figures show that that Labour are likely to make gains at this election. That they're going to gain, if we talk in terms of councils, gain maybe around 20 councils. Up from the 70 or so that they hold at the moment. But the other important thing is, although the Conservatives may well lose a lot of seats, they might be roughly flat in terms of the number of councils. They might still hold around about 40 councils at the end of the day. And let's remember why these elections are important. As you said, that these are the first big electoral test after partygate, and it's a chance to see how actual people are going to react in actual polling booths up and down the country. Labour need to do well here, because Labour have so far under Keir Starmer, although they've had policy changes and a better press, have not yet made electoral gains anywhere. Labour need to be gaining. Keir Starmer absolutely needs to get some electoral gains under his belt, because so far in all his time as Labour leader, Labour have not really made any significant electoral gains at all. So it's very important for him to do that, and our figures show that he's likely to do that by gaining around 20 councils. On the other hand, Boris Johnson's aim is to survive. And our figures also show that he may well achieve that as well. That if the Conservatives hold steady in terms of the number of councils, even if they lose hundreds of councillors, as our figures also show, that may be, in the phrase, kind of nabbit, not as bad as feared for the Conservatives. And that could be enough to get Boris Johnson through. Although it's worth remembering that our polling was conducted before the partygate fines, and we don't yet know how that's going to play in the public, whether it's going to energise Labour voters or perhaps more likely encourage or discourage Conservative voters from actually turning out and voting. So things could be worse for the Conservatives. So I think our figures give a benchmark for how Boris Johnson's success will be measured, particularly in terms of councils. If the Conservatives lose more than a handful of councils, that's going to be quite bad. If Labour only win a few councils, that won't be as good for Keir Starmer as expected. And obviously, if the results are much bigger than we're thinking, then that will send a signal to Conservative backbenchers that things are bad, and that Boris Johnson's election-winning charisma is beginning to wear off. I think that's what backbenchers.
That point on turnout is really crucial there, because that's what these local elections really are about. We're not expecting a big turnout. So just in the final 30 seconds of the programme, if you would, Martin Baxter, how applicable would these local election results be to a general election where turnout would be much higher?
Yes, it's a good point. Only about a third of people vote in local elections. So it's not an exact guide, but I think that plus the polls that are regularly going on in Westminster voting intention give us a clue. At the moment, it's still pointing to a Labour minority government. So Keir Starmer is not yet achieving Tony Blair-type levels of popularity and enthusiasm sweeping the country. But equally, if there were an election tomorrow, you wouldn't bet on the Conservatives winning it. So that's where we are. Conservative backbenchers will be wondering whether that can be turned around.